Hey everybody, welcome back to The Mortgage Mindset. As some of you may know, The Mortgage Mindset is a series where we bring on leaders in really every industry that come on the show to show us all of the techniques and the tips and tricks that they use in their lives and in their business to become successful. One of the topics that I would really love to discuss this week is, how some of us transitioned into the mortgage space. This week, I thought there would be an unbelievable opportunity to bring on this gentleman right here, Jared Thorbourne, who's not only a lifelong friend of mine, but also somebody who transitioned from the car industry to the mortgage industry. Jared, thanks for coming on the show today.
Well, thank you for having me, Dino. I appreciate it.
Of course, man.
So this is your favorite loan officer, Jared Thorbourne, with Team Franzese. And as Dean said, I was in the car business for about 4 years. And previous to that, I actually was playing college football, as you know, and I had got done with college due to a knee injury and decided I wanted to start working. So I started working for Packard Flooring Supply, delivering wood floors. And sales was always my thing. I was the kid on the street selling lemonade and coming up with different products, like printing out graphics on T-shirts and selling them.
Whatever you could do to make a buck.
Whatever I could do, right?
Of course. Well, you learn hard work the right way by starting with the wood floor business. I don't think there's much harder work than that.
Oh man,
especially you weren't just working in the business. I remember you were the guy carrying the 15 planks of wood on his shoulder.
That's right. That's right.
Into the houses. And
White oak, 250 pounds right there.
That's it. So I think that's just a good way to learn hard work and commitment.
Physical labor.
Yeah, physical labor, of course, and that kind of transitions into whether it's sales or any business, giving you the right work ethic.
Right. Well, talking to the older gentleman that I worked with, doing that physical labor for so long as they have, they told me any chance that you can to start to get a career, save your body, and work, find your career and go through with that. So,
what made you think about sales? What made you decide to? I know that after you finished the wood floor business, I think you said your father had said maybe there might be an opportunity, in the car business with a friend of his.
Right.
I think Michael Brown.
Yep.
Who owns? What does he own?
Michael Brown owns the Empire Auto Group, which they have probably about 13 dealerships on the island. I think they have one in Connecticut as well. So shout out to Michael Brown.
That's awesome.
At Empire for giving me that opportunity.
I don't think there's I don't think there's a better place to start, I guess, when somebody decides I want to get into sales.
Right.
People I feel like there's a couple different ways to go. I feel like starting with the car business, getting into the aggressive sales environment that that business really entails.
Right.
Why don't you give us some insight on, some of the stuff you learned there and, maybe some of the techniques that you I guess learned by just being in sales and tell us how you applied those techniques to this business.
Absolutely. So, as you said, it's an aggressive business. I mean, everything about the car business is that day. Right. So that was a big shock getting into the mortgage business where, when you first told me.
There's a process.
Right, there's a process. It takes a little longer for a loan to close, or you have to do a lot of preparing to get that borrower to the finish line. Right. Whereas, in the car business, it's today, right? You want that person to come into the dealership and leave with a car. Right. So, when I heard that I could use my personality getting into the car business to make money, that to me I was like, sign me up.
Of course.
So I'll never forget, I had an interview on Friday. It was me and 4 other gentlemen, and we were thrown into the fire. We were hired that day, said come in. It was a Saturday, which if you know about the car business, Saturdays are the most busy day.
Of course.
So they had us go into the dealership on Saturday. Now, like I said, sales was always in my blood. My grandfather was a salesman as well. For Men's Warehouse for a very long time.
He's one of the best dressed guys I've ever seen in my life.
Dapper Dan. That's what they call him. Dapper Dan. So Saturday I went in and I was nervous as can be, but I knew that as long as I can get in front of the customer,
of course,
they'll love me.
You just be yourself.
They'll buy the car.
That's who you are.
That's what I thought. So I'll never forget, and this taught me most of everything that I need to know about sales in itself. So I get an update call, someone came in and they were interested in the car, right? Now, all day we had prep. We were assigned cars, 4 of us. I was assigned the Ford Explorer because I was at Huntington Ford at the time. One of the other gentlemen was assigned the Ford Edge. Another one was assigned the Escape, and another one was assigned the F-150. Now, walking in, they were mentioning horsepower. I had no clue what they were talking about. Horsepower, what the heck is that? How does that translate to a car, a horse? So I was just gonna use my personality to sell. So borrower comes in and they walk over to a few different cars, and so I walk over all confident and I say, welcome to Huntington Ford. My name is Jared. How can I help you? And so I was assigned the Ford Explorer. So one of the other gentlemen that had the Ford Edge actually had a Ford Edge as a truck, so he knew all about that. So they're looking at the Ford Edge, and I had no idea about anything about the truck because I was just studying the Ford Explorer. So they're asking me all these questions, and I was frozen. I had no idea what to say.
Meanwhile, he has the truck, so he probably knows the answers.
Meanwhile, the other guy knew exactly everything. He's looking at me laughing because I had nothing to say. So what I said was, I know the perfect person to help you. He has this truck. Let me go grab another salesman for you. I grabbed the gentleman that had the Edge, that was studying the Edge.
Yeah.
He ended up talking to the customers, closed them that same night, delivered the truck that same night.
Teamwork.
Teamwork.
Yeah,
But
teamwork.
what I should have said was, I don't know the answer to that question. Let me find out.
Yeah.
Instead, I gave him to someone else, and he was the new hire that closed the first deal that night.
Well, listen, having that mentality that you looked for somebody else on your team, even though that's a competitor because he's another salesman in your space.
Right.
That's just, you have that instinct of teamwork. How could I help the team? And just that being your first day or week in the business.
Right.
That's the right mentality. That's why you've came so far so fast in this business. Mm-hmm. By having those qualities. So,
right. Well, teamwork definitely translates now to
teamwork
this
makes the dream work
100%.
always, no matter what business you're in. Mm-hmm. It's funny because if I go back to how I started in the mortgage business, you wouldn't believe probably because many people don't. I wasn't sure what path I really wanted to go down. I worked at a diner, in Hot Pog, I remember. I worked at really random places, not knowing kind of what path I wanted to go down. A lot of my friends, I saw going to college, they were doing different things in their life, traveling, going on vacations, and I was just, sitting there as, a 17 or 18-year-old kid, not really even having the thought of, wanting success yet, but kind of like, what's life about? Like, what direction do I go in? I really had no idea, what I wanted to do.
Right.
Looking back, fast forward 10, 15 years later, realizing I had not a worry in the world back then, it sounds kind of great, but, I never thought, again, fast forward 10 to 15 years later, that I'd be sitting here, in the mortgage business, as a loan officer with a team and, somebody who's became successful and, now obviously helping other loan officers, find their path in this business to become successful. And, just to circle back to what I was saying is, so I was hopping around different jobs and, I always had a passion, for golf since I was, 14 or 15. Mm-hmm. It's funny because I think I started late. Other people who play golf in their 40s and 50s think I started early. But, some of us that know the game of golf, Tiger Woods started at 2 years old.
Right.
His father had him on the driving range hitting golf balls. So I feel like whenever you're that age and you start something, whether it's, it would only be something with sports at that age, you would think. But whenever you start something at that age, you're almost guaranteed to become the best at it. Yeah,
absolutely.
You have to excel.
Absolutely.
So I started golf at probably 14 or 15. My grandmother played with me growing up. I played younger than that, but I never took it seriously.
Right.
But when I was 14 or 15, my Uncle Lou, who's my father's sister's husband, we had gone to the driving range one day, I guess I fell in love with hitting that golf ball, and I wanted more. It's a very competitive sport because golf is not a game of perfect. I realized at a young age, that first week I started to really get into it, you really have to practice and put the time in to get better at this sport.
Right.
And I would spend my days and nights, I wasn't, really busy at the time because I was out of high school, or I was in high school when I started. But I would spend all my days and nights at the driving range practicing. And it's funny because I really didn't get better. And then there was one day that, 6 or 7 months into me playing golf, I had gone out with a friend of my father to Bethpage Green, I remember. And before I went out for that round, I would always shoot, 90, 95, 100.
Right.
I was just your average person going out on the golf course. But I remember that one round, I ended up shooting 83. And for me back then, it was a big deal.
Right.
I was this 15-year-old kid who never really knew how to play golf.
Right.
My family, didn't really have any competitive golfers in the family,
Right.
but they liked golf. So an 83 to them and really everybody around me was amazing. Everybody made a big deal about it. So I realized once I went out that one day and shot that 83, holy crap, I could do
Right,
this.
you could do it, right.
I started doing something that I wasn't great at, and with the hard work and the practice,
Got better and better.
yeah, I got better and better. So after I shot that 83, I was hungry.
Right.
I was,
Right.
how do I get that 83 to a 73 and a
right.
60, whatever the numbers are? So I practiced, and once I had graduated high school, I ended up playing on the high school golf team. We did, very well as a team. Ended up going to Nassau Community College, where, school wasn't really my thing ever. But because I played golf, I wanted to test out the college experience.
Right.
I got an opportunity to play at Nassau, which back then it was a great program, as all of their sports programs are really great.
Right.
Their football, their, golf team was great.
Right.
Really every team at Nassau.
Right.
I feel like was for the kids that were great at the sports, but
not great in school.
didn't love the school.
Right.
So
Right.
I was that guy.
Right.
So I tried out college, played on the golf team, ended up running into challenges at school, of course, because, not that I wasn't educated, on the curriculum, I just didn't like going to school.
Right.
I wanted to kind of figure out my own path.
Right.
So it only lasted about a year or two until I stopped going to college. My father wasn't happy at that time, of course.
Yeah.
And that's where I had that year or so of, working at that random diner, not knowing what path I was going to go down. I had to figure things out.
Right.
And that's when I finally, said to my father, he was actually an investor in the mortgage space. He wasn't in the mortgage world. He came from a financial background.
Right.
But he had invested into a mortgage team, or a branch of the mortgage industry. And I had said to him, when could I come to work? When could I start working? And he always said there really wasn't a place for me there because I was so young, and that business is, you have to be a little older and mature to relate to clients who want to buy homes.
Right.
And I guess they had thought that there might not be a place for me there yet.
Right.
But when I had finally turned, I think it was 19, I kept begging him and let me come to the office.
Right.
And I finally came to the office, and they put me on the phones.
Right.
That's where I started dialing the phones.
Right.
And I remember that first phone call I made was a borrower who was interested in a mortgage.
Right.
And right there, I thought that, okay, I could do this, maybe get a result from it, and possibly make some money doing it.
Right.
This sounds cool.
Absolutely.
I didn't know that this is where I'd be 10 or 15 years later.
Right.
But again, it was a place for me to start. Right. And again, going back to playing golf in high school and then going to college, trying to play golf, and having different jobs, not knowing what path I'd go down.
Right.
I'm honored to be here and to have learned this business, and to now be able to give back to other people learning the business. And that's how I got here, and here we are. So
and here we are. And I couldn't have been more blessed to start my sales career in the car business.
Yeah.
Because it's person to person, face to face. You're meeting these clients. You have to deal with the objections, not over the phone, but
Exactly.
someone telling you in
Right.
your face.
It's more personable.
Right. It's more personable, but that's what I then try to bring into the mortgage business is going out and meeting my clients in person.
Yep.
Because I know at the end of the day, once they meet me in person, once they see the smile on my face and they see that I'm a normal person like they are, and I understand their situation,
Exactly.
that they'll be willing to, give me an opportunity to earn their business. But what I'll tell you is that first day and losing that client lit a fire under me like no other. I went home that night. I never stopped thinking about it. I studied, you bet, everything you need to know about the Ford Edge after that, and every other truck that there was, so that the next person that came and had a question, I could answer that question for them and sound,
Of course.
like I know what I'm talking
You're
about.
knowledgeable. Yeah, of
Right.
course.
But it was a great place for me to start. I'm very happy and very blessed to have began my sales career there. But the transition for me to the mortgage business,
And it's not easy.
it's not easy at all.
Because a lot of people, listen, the car business is an unbelievable business,
Right.
and a lot of people that we know are very successful in that business.
Right.
But it's a different type of sale.
Correct.
Just like other sales businesses, it's a different sale than, somebody looking to buy a home or refinance their home, because that's typically the biggest purchase of somebody's life.
Right. Right.
So not that it's more serious than somebody buying a car, because
Right.
that's extremely important.
Right.
We're putting money on the line,
Right.
as human beings. But a lot of qualities that people sometimes get in the car business by being a little aggressive, and we're like that in this business too, of course.
Right.
But I feel like you took the great qualities from that business,
Right.
not the bad qualities that
Right.
sometimes you can't really use in this business, and
Right.
that's helped you excel.
Well,
you know when to tone it up with the client,
Right.
when to tone it
Right.
down with the client,
Right.
and to stay on their pace, which
Right.
helps you relate well with these consumers.
You have to become a chameleon. You have to adapt to anywhere
Right.
that you are with any type
Exactly.
of person. We deal with many different type of people, and
Exactly.
over the phone especially, things get a little rough sometimes, and you have to know when to tone it down and to
And rejection, like you said,
Right.
not that you
Dealing
got
with-
rejected on your first deal, but learning we get rejected all day in this
Correct.
business. So
Correct.
being able to take it on the shoulder and stay even keel and
Right.
just move on and just keep going forward.
Right.
That's another quality that you learn from that business.
Right.
Because this business, because rejection is something that we deal with
Every day, every minute,
every day,
every time.
and we have to be okay with it. Always.
We have to be okay and bounce back. But even before you asked me to join your team, I was sitting down with a customer, and I had went through the whole walkthrough of the car, random numbers, went back and forth to the desk, got them the deal that they wanted, and at the end of the day, they said to me, Jared, we just can't pull the trigger right now. We're in the middle of purchasing a home. And so when I heard that buying a home is more important than buying a car, I said to
For
myself,
some people, which
right, for others, we yell at them all day because they just
For
ruin
some
their deal.
people,
But when I heard that buying a home is more important than buying a car, well, then why wouldn't I try to,
Right.
do something with people buying homes?
right, yeah,
You
of
know,
course. There's nothing like helping somebody, whether it's a first-time home buyer,
Right.
Or an investor or anybody we really deal with.
Well, that's another
accomplish
thing,
that goal
is
of buying
building
a
the
home.
relationships, building the rapport.
And building relationships.
Right.
Not even with just the clients, just outside of the client world too, with referral partners
Right.
and the realtors.
Right.
You relate so well to these people because of your personality.
Right.
And that's what's going to help you really, get to the top in this business.
I just knew that I could use my personality, and for anyone else out there that is go lucky, go happy type of person, with the gift of gab, they'll be able to make it work in this business. Because as long as you're honest, and as long as you're you're happy with
you
your
got the-
situation,
and you got the work
you leave your
ethic.
baggage at home, you
That's
come
it.
into work, put a smile on your face, and you
it.
smile and dial.
That's
you
it.
know. So, but getting into the business, it was a lot to adjust with. Again, you're going from a fast-paced business, mostly in person, to then over the phone and having to slow yourself down. So,
As much as it's a fast-paced industry,
Right.
dealing with the clients can't always be fast-paced.
can't be
You know
fa-
that.
right.
Even speaking to somebody about a reverse mortgage, you know that if you're speaking to them on the phone,
Right.
With a
it's
fast pace.
more of a slow pitch.
Exactly. Exactly.
Right.
So, yeah, I just want to thank you for coming on the show today, Jared. Anybody out there, if you're looking for a team that provides you with all of the tools and the guidance and the knowledge that you need to, whether it's start your career in this business or take your career to the next step, reach out to us. We would look forward to, and we look forward to, working with you in the future. And Jared, I hope to do this again soon, man.
Absolutely.
This was awesome.
I would love to.
Thank you very
for
much.
the opportunity.